Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. All right, hi, this is Attican, and welcome to part 5 of our replay of Gold Rush using the version 1.8 beta functionality. And we're at a really good place here. We have about 125 of our 200 alcohol produced. We've got two businesses going, one in Sacramento, one in Yuma. They're both feeding off into warehouses so they can keep producing, and they're both getting good supplies of raw materials, so we're in good shape there. We're also in pretty good shape on our Salt Lake City line. We're up over 900 out of our 2,000 that we need and getting a pretty steady flow, so we're in good shape there. And what we need to do now is get that city growth, of course. We've got to get those 8 cities grown up. So what we want to do here is take Tucson and add it into our 4-city cluster. But here's where we're not going to use a truly full-blown 4-city cluster, because Tucson, rather than putting in a unique industry that's going to be harder to supply with materials, what we're going to do is keep that meat industry down there, because we've got the cattle nearby. So that's one industry that can keep satisfaction up in Tucson. And Tucson's going to be our hardest one to grow, because we've got that nice little 3-city single warehouse deal going with LA, San Diego, Yuma, and then we've also got an extra warehouse over Yuma to feed our alcohol. So we're in great shape there. So what we're going to do down here with Tucson is say, okay, well, let's do a little hybrid here. We're just going to put in beer and meat in Tucson and make sure it has wheat and cattle, and that way it'll get good satisfaction from those two. It's not the perfect setup for a 4-city cluster, but it'll work perfectly well, and that will allow us to get to focus on Tucson, because we know that's going to be the long pole in the tent as far as getting this 4-city cluster, all 4 cities up to 80,000. Now, up in the other one, San Francisco is our hardest one, and we're going to have to do some things to make sure that San Francisco grows, because the other 3, Sacramento's starting to grow really well. Carson City's already there. Shasta, if it's not already there, it's not there, but it's in a good position. So we'll work on, well, really Shasta and San Francisco and that pass through, and then make sure the San Francisco part works. So that's kind of where we are. All right, so now finally ready to put in maintenance. Now, why in the world did we wait so long? Number one, there was always something better to spend the money on. There's so many things you need to get done. Number 2 is, well, see number 1. We now have money. We're in great shape. We got $8 million. I mean, the money's racking up way faster than I can spend it. We're in great shape now. So we can go out, put in the maintenance, and do we have to do this? No. We could actually play the entire game without maintenance and do just fine. But I really do prefer having the maintenance. It sort of grates on me that I don't have to have it. And so we're going to put it all in, put the maintenance in, and get it all set. There, I accidentally put one on the milk station. Didn't mean to, but at any rate, we're going to go through and just put maintenance on all the warehouses and all the city stations, and that will slow things down a bit as these trains pull in. They're going to start getting maintenance that they haven't had. But there's other reasons I'm doing it right now. One is we're running the Red Dragon as our freight train, and really don't see that changing because it's got the most tractive power. We've got some hills to negotiate, so we might as well maintain it, because we're not going to be changing them out. I mean, the other way it could have done this, by the way, is just do a mass update. Just replace every train with a whole new set of trains, and that's the same thing as doing maintenance on everything. But I decided to be more traditional and put maintenance on my buildings. I know some of you get irritated that I don't do that, but there it is. So we've got I'm putting maintenance on all the buildings now. It's going to slow down our economy for about a quarter while a lot of trains go in and get serviced. It's going to slow a few things down, but that's okay. We're in good shape right now. So once we get all that done, get all the maintenance done, then we're going to have to look at how are we going to continue with our city growth. Now, I'm double checking our little line between the two warehouses, the Sacramento and the pass-through warehouse, and it looks good. It looks like it's doing the right things, moving freight pretty well, moving freight back and forth. But again, here we're going to start seeing some slowdown as trains start getting maintained. So these trains are going to pull in. They're going to take a little extra time in the station. But that's okay. Once they all get on a regular maintenance schedule, then we'll be good. And it's probably not a great idea to do all the maintenance and all the stations at the same time. Kind of phase it in. In fact, frankly, it might be better if I just do it from the beginning. Maybe I'll experiment with that and see if you guys aren't right and if I don't need to just start doing maintenance right off the bat. Certainly with the engineer, you would think about that since the maintenance is free. Let's move ahead a little bit till we get to something a little more interesting. Okay, we can see here that we're in really good shape now. We've got 1,200 passengers. We're at over 180 with our alcohol production. And so it looks like we're going to make it on the alcohol and the passengers from Salt Lake City. So that's all good. And now we're just double checking our 4-city cluster, let's call it the LA cluster. And we're seeing growth. We're seeing the right things. We're seeing what we want to see, at least in LA and San Diego and Yuma. And as I said, Tucson's going to be the toughest one to grow, and we'll figure that one out. We can put a new industry in LA, and again, as a repeat, it's very important that we monitor these industries and put in industries that will help our cluster grow. So, and also, first choice is something that can be maintained. In other words, let's make sure that we can get milk into LA if we're going to put a dairy industry in LA. Let's make sure we're getting milk. So we're going to augment our little pass-through system here. We're going to run milk, and actually this may be the first milk we've moved over there, but we're going to run milk directly into LA. We're going to piggyback on this cattle line we've already set up going into LA for their meat industry and bring milk down there directly into LA to make sure that dairy is satisfied and is supplied, and that will help LA grow, but then the subsequent dairy products will help the other 3 cities in the cluster grow. So good practice, if you can do it, is anytime you have an industry in a city you're trying to grow, that you make sure that you have a direct route with the raw material or materials that it needs so that it stays supplied. And that's the principle we're following here, is just making sure that we get dairy into LA, and so that way we'll keep that growth going in LA, and again we'll keep that dairy products for the other cities as well. So we got a task completed message, and we have just finished off our alcohol production. So we produced the 200 units, and we got our nice little gold check mark, which means we're still on track. We're looking good for our transporting 2,000. So we just got to get our cities growing, and we've got to get these clusters going. So we can see up here we got Sacramento is growing. It's getting 92% satisfaction now. We've got Shasta is growing. It's barely growing, but remember, and this is tests I've done recently, thanks to some question that Ken Suizo sent me. growth is an on-off switch. You're either over 60% and growing, or you're not. And it doesn't matter if you're at 90% or 64%. They're equally as good as far as growing your city. But here we're going to make sure we've got the right industry in Shasta. So we're going to knock down that brewery that we haven't been supplying, and we're going to put a Taylor in there because we know we can run cotton down there to Shasta. I'm sorry, Taylor. Sorry. We know we have a textile industry in Carson City, and it's being supplied with cotton, so that textile industry should be able to supply the clothing industry in Shasta. Will get paid for shipping the goods as well, but that way Shasta should be able to continue to grow. And right there, you see those X's where we're not getting enough. We're not getting the right goods to go over to Tucson. We have a little line going from that warehouse to Tucson. I goofed up there. I did not do a good job of putting stuff in that warehouse. And had I gone ahead and gotten wheat in there and a few other items, in addition to the fruit and sugar that I put in for the distillery, then Tucson would have grown better and even faster than it did. But you can see there's almost nothing in there except fruit and, well, there is nothing in there except fruit and sugar. So shame on me for not getting that done and doing a better job with that. That's one place where I really could have improved on this particular run through. So here I'm seeing that San Francisco just isn't getting the growth we'd like it to have. And Dr. K made an observation in a comment in one of the earlier videos in this little series that I should have used that fourth platform of that lower station in San Francisco to be the line to LA. And that's absolutely true. I goofed up there. And then that would have left an opening where we could run freight into that station. The same way we're running the cattle in, we could have run some of the other freight items over here that would help San Francisco grow. And so here, I'm going to pay for that sin, and I still could have fixed this. I still could have. This is hindsight now, of course. But in 2020 hindsight, I could have moved my LA line over to platform 4. Wouldn't have been that hard. Maybe I might have had to change the trains. I'm not sure if I specified their platform, but if I did, I could change them. And then I could have run a line to, as we're looking at it, to the right of my express line to haul freight in. And all this freight I'm about ready to set up here could have been done fairly cleanly, direct lines into the city. Wouldn't have had to build a warehouse, wouldn't have to set up what you'll see in a minute, a kind of semi-cute little thing I do to make this all work. But be that as it may, what I ended up doing was putting a warehouse down here so that I could get some extra goods into San Francisco. So what we're going to do is put corn and sugar and milk in there, coming from down here down south. And so what we'll do is, and I used a regular warehouse because the super warehouse wouldn't fit with those automated signals take up a lot of space, and it just wouldn't fit. So this is a regular large a big warehouse, they call it, in there. And so what we're going to do is run corn into that warehouse, and that's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. We'll run corn into the warehouse. That's one way you can tell it's not a superstation, because it would allow me to pick which platform to use in the warehouse. So we'll get a corn line going with, and there I'm going to run the refrigerated cars. I need to do a little study to confirm this, but I think we still get a bonus from refrigerating them as they go to the warehouse. Even though you don't get paid for them directly right away, that you get paid as they're consumed, as the goods are consumed out of the warehouse, but I still think that bonus helps us. So here I've set up train stations to be able to grab the other side of the track, which of course I wouldn't have to do if I was over on the side I should have been on anyway. Not to mention the fact that I cheat the, now I've got these ugly freight trains blocking that incredible view as these trains go down by Big Sur and all that needs, no, it isn't Big Sur, that was up in San Francisco, but all that beautiful ocean view and all these nice vistas, we block the passengers with these ugly freight trains. Anyway, well, at least our engineers and stokers have nice views. So what we're going to do here is run a line. In order to get through one warehouse, we're going to, or through the stations like this, we're going to run a line. Track 1 is going to be for the corn going down, and then track 2 will be a pass-through lane for our sugar line, so that it can go through the station and go on down. And this is a not great design, because it still has the problem of if the trains are queuing up and waiting. It turns out it wasn't a problem, but this was a poor design. It's cute, but it's not great gameplay. So here we're going to set up the corn into the warehouse, the sugar into the warehouse, and later on we'll have to jump over the line and bring milk in the same way and just kind of pass them through. It's tight space there, but I really should have had a bypass around the stations, or not really. And of course, what I really should have been doing is not doing this at all. I should have been setting up these lines over on the other side of the track, so to speak. And so, let's see. There really isn't much else to say about this, so let's just move ahead. I'm trying to shorten this a little bit because, frankly, I want to get this done so I can go do some other things for you. And so let's just move ahead a little bit. And let me just suffice it to say that moving those three things into San Francisco did help spur San Francisco growth, of course, because it needed those goods. So we moved ahead to a little status check here. We've got everything done. Everything's being done on schedule to get our excellent score so far. We've got to do major city growth, and we've got to build a university in LA and get those passengers from Salt Lake. Now LA's growing, so we won't have any trouble. It's knocking on the door of 60,000 right now. Once it hits 60, we can put a university in LA. That won't be a problem, and we're in great shape on our Salt Lake City passengers because we started that process pretty early. So we're getting good flow there. We're making great strides in getting those passengers done. So we're just setting up here. There we go. We just saw the opportunity to put a museum in Yuma. The museum is, of course, the power building in this particular scenario because we're trying to do city growth. So anytime we get that museum in there, we know we're in great shape in terms of getting cities in our cluster to hit the 80,000 mark. Now LA has grown to 60, so we're going to throw in a university. That gives us our task completed. Then we're going to immediately, of course, delete the university and put in a museum because we need LA to hit 80,000 as quickly as possible. We had a university for a brief moment, but we had no graduating classes, I'm afraid. So now we just need to keep these things moving, and we really need to focus on Tucson. And we're going to go up here and look around and grab wheat and get wheat going to Tucson. And we really have, what this one down here has turned into is a really solid three-city cluster, LA, San Diego, Yuma. And because I failed to load that warehouse in Yuma properly, I've really turned my 4-city cluster into a 3-city cluster plus an extra. It's kind of a +1, which is Tucson. And Tucson's almost standalone because, as I said, we're going to have it with its own beer and meat, and then it'll get a few things from the other cities as it grows a little bit, and then we're going to try to just make sure it stays satisfied, keep pumping things directly into it to keep it growing so that it continues growing as well. Because our little 3-city cluster here, which was supposed to be 4, is working really well. It's solid. And our 4-city cluster, particularly since we gave San Francisco a little bit of extra love, is working beautifully. And so we'll get 4 cities up there, 3 out of this little cluster down here, and then we add in Tucson, and we've got our 8 cities. And that should give us everything that we need. So this is a little boring at this point. I know if you're new to the game, you're probably going, oh man, don't fast forward. I want to see how you do it. I've got over 150 videos for this game, so you can go find how I do it many, many times, including Gold Rush. I've got multiple plays of Gold Rush out there, but some of it is using older technology. But what I've tried to do here is show you how to use the new technology. Really wanted to show you a nice 4-city cluster, which we did over in the San Francisco area. Showed you the power of these pass-through, how these new automated signals can allow so much more traffic and just run trains right through them without a problem. That's all lovely. And, some fundamentals about city growth. But I'd like to kind of move ahead now and just say that we're going to keep growing Tucson, and then we're just going to drive this out until it's finished, and then we'll see how we did. All right, just as I was about to say, let's fast forward and see how we did. Sure enough, we get the message telling us that we've got our 2,000 passengers from Salt Lake City, so now all we've got to do is finish off our city growth, and we're in great shape on that. We've got the infrastructure in place to get that done. Now, when I started this replay of Gold Rush, I had kind of 4 personal objectives. One, I wanted to build that San Francisco to Carson City straight line without bridges or tunnels, and check, got that done. Number 2, I wanted to show you a really good 4-city cluster, and I think the one in San Francisco area does that, and even under very trying circumstances with the geography. So good 4-city cluster there, check. Number 3, I wanted to show you the new functionality, like the maintenance station and the power of these automated signals and how much throughput you can get through these stations very beautifully with minimal work on your part. And again, I think check. And then number 4 is I wanted to get a perfect score on Gold Rush. So we'll have to wait a minute to see how we did on that. Okay, we're coming up to the end here, so we're about to hit our final objective as Tucson is approaching 80,000, and that will give us the 8 cities that we need to reach our objective. So let's see how we did on our final score. And sure enough, we got 10 out of 10 tasks, 20 out of 20 on the time rating. Took us just over 6 years, but we did hit all of our tasks in half time or better. So we got a perfect score, which I'm pretty happy with. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.